can accommodate up to 100,000. These thousands of children have not been reunited with their parents. They're telling you they don't even know who their parents are. This is what they're doing. This cannot be tolerated. We must stop this. It is on us. Nobody's going to do this but us. Nobody. We have a responsibility to humanity. When Trump is threatening nuclear war against Iran, against North Korea, we have the finger of a demented fascist bully on the nuclear trigger. And let's be real, Trump is more dangerous than Hitler. Hitler didn't have nuclear weapons. Trump does. 3 times he asked, if we have nuclear weapons, why can't we use them? This is what we're confronting. A Supreme Court that will have Roe v. Wade, a woman's right to choose, in its crosshairs. A Supreme Court that will have the recently won LGBTQ rights in the crosshairs. A Supreme Court that will uphold the mass detention of immigrants in concentration camps. They're already tearing up voting rights. All the gains of the 60s will be in their crosshairs. To paraphrase the ACT UP activist Larry Kramer, this is fascism! This is fascism! And ain't nobody gonna stop it but you. So you're all here today because when you saw this society that ripped children away from their parents, and 2,000 are still separated, and 30,000 people were rounded up last month with 10,000 families. This is striking you in your soul, but I'm not here to talk about all of that. Other people have told you this. What I want to tell you is this. In the call from Refuse Fascism, it says that the world as we have known it, the world as we have known it, is being torn asunder. This is the one thing that I can tell you with certainty, relatively speaking. But I can tell you with certainty that the world as you have known it is being torn asunder. The old order is, as Bob Dylan said, rapidly fading. This is important to understand why it is that we think that the only way to stop what is happening here is for people to start organizing now, the 50 to 100 to 200 of you who are here, to start organizing for the time when thousands can take to the streets and cities around this country and stay in the streets day after day, night after night, coming in shifts, coming from churches, coming from union halls, coming from your communities, coming from your schools, so that there is a political crisis in this country such that the powers that be are forced to remove this Trump-Pence regime. I said that the world is being torn asunder. All across the world, right now, populist fascist movements are growing. And in the imperialist countries in Europe and the United States, these are infused with white nationalism. And this is fascism. This is serious stuff. And right here, why does it matter so much in the United States? Because the United States is at the apex of all of this. And it is a country founded on genocide and white supremacy. And the party of Donald Trump is the party and the continuation of the Confederacy. And you only had to watch the rally in Fargo, North Dakota, or the one in Minnesota, to understand that there is a force that's being unleashed in this country that is prepared to fight to totally remake this country in a fascist direction, and they've already made great progress in the first 14 months. I'm trying to speak seriously to you. This is not, when we say we refuse fascism in the name of humanity, we refuse to accept a fascist America, that is not a hyperbolic rhetorical slogan. That is the reality that is happening. This is not exaggeration. This is what's happening. And the question to all of you is, if it hasn't hit you yet, does that mean that you will go along with it? Because this has been historically tested, and people who went along with fascism paid a very serious price. And let me ask you this. Many of you, who here has heard the quote from Pastor Martin Niemöller? Okay. First they came
for the communists and I was not a communist and I didn't speak up, and then they came for the trade unionists and I was not a trade unionist and I didn't speak up, and then they came for the Jews and I did not speak up till there was no one left, and he was speaking about Nazi Germany. Well, first they came for whom? The Muslims. And now that's law, passed by the Supreme Court even before this new appointment. Then they came for the immigrants. If you are not outraged enough now to act, you are going to be accepting a future that is horrific. So now is the time. Now is the time. Starting today, tomorrow morning at the churches, Monday night, vigils around the country around the Supreme Court decision, and then going from there to the point when we can get tens of thousands in the street. We have to recognize that this fascist regime is not something that's incidental. It's not just a clown sneaking his way into the presidency. This is something that has been growing in this country for a long time, for decades, in fact, if not since its foundation. We have to come together now in this course of action. And there are people telling you every night they are telling you that what you need to do is vote in November. Well, first of all, on their own logic, that is not going to prevent the consolidation of a fascist court, and the evisceration of the separation of powers is one step in the fascist direction. That is not going to deal with these unleashed fascist mobs that you saw in North Dakota the other night. Trump only had to say the words and those people would have poured out of that stadium and done mayhem. But what about us? You're watching fucking Rachel Maddow tell you every night about some investigation. That's not going to do anything if you're not in the streets. That's not going to do anything. You've got to wake up, friends. You may not want to hear this, but that's not going to do a damn thing if there isn't the pressure from below. Oh yeah, Manafort will go to jail. So what? The regime will still be in power. I'm trying to speak to you seriously about this. The Democrats are not going to be your answer. And here's something for the revolutionary leader, Bob Avakian. If you try to make the Democrats what they are not, you will become more like what they actually are. And this is tested. This is tested. This is a party that has waged war. They criticized Trump in going to North Korea for not being hard enough on North Korea when the man's threatening to incinerate the world with nuclear weapons. These are people who will sand the roughest edges in their rhetoric about this system. They are not going to stand up to Trump. You've given them 16 months. Do not give them another 4 months. And I'm not telling you not to vote. You do what you want, but I'm telling you that's not going to solve this. The only thing that's going to stop this is people getting out in the streets. And those of us who are revolutionaries, we're going to be there with you.
You're where you need to be today because this regime must be driven out. I mean, what can you say about a regime that rips children from their mother's arms? That it is no damn good, it is an insult to humanity, and it must be stopped. But we gotta go deeper than that. Because this ain't the first time America has ripped children from their mother's arms. America was founded on ripping children from their mother's arms. Slavery, the auction blocks. They ripped children from their mother's arms, sold them to one plantation owner, sold a mother to another. Straight up. They did the same thing to the native inhabitants, stealing their children, putting them in what they call border schools, trying to make them lose their culture and traditions. And today, America is backing to the hilt, bombing raids in Yemen that have 5 million people, including 2 million children, on the edge of starvation. This is a country and a system that has built its wealth and power on that kind of inhumanity to young people in this country and around the world. Now, we got to stop this regime. We got to drive it out. And Andy talked about how to do that. It ain't going to be no midterm elections. That ain't what you can rely on because the Democrats got no answer for this. It is us, people like us, taking to the streets in massive numbers with one demand. This Trump-Pence regime must go.
We gotta do it! regime. March with us. March with us. Drive out the Trump regime.
Drive out the Trump regime.
Drive out the Trump regime. March with us. March with us. Drive out the Trump regime.
In the name of humanity, we must refuse to accept a fascist America. They are putting our children in cages. Only the people can stop a fascist America.
Rise up for the people of the world. For the people of the world. Rise up.
We are refusing to accept a fascist America. That's why we're in the streets today. That's why we are organizing with refusefascism.org, and everybody has a role to play.
No ban, no wall. The Trump regime has got to fall. No ban, no wall. The Trump regime has got to fall. No ban, no wall. Trump regime, march with us. March with us.
If you can hear the sound of my voice, I want you to put your fist in the air right now. And I want you to repeat after me. This is a very serious moment right now. We are on the eve of a fascist Supreme Court nominee that would tip the courts in this country and cement in a fully fascist judicial system. There's already fascists in the White House. There are fascists in Congress. There are fascists in the military. And you can vote fascism in, but you cannot vote it out. It has to be driven out. So put your fist up and say after me. In the name of humanity.
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 Put your fist up, y'all. Put your fist up in the name of humanity.
In the name of humanity.
We refuse to accept
We refuse to accept
a fascist America.
a fascist America.
Only the people
Only the people
can stop this nightmare.
can stop this nightmare.
Trump Pence
Trump Pence
must go.
must go.
Trump Pence
Trump Pence must go. Must go.
So now I'm going to explain why we are here at the U.S. Military Recruitment Center. We're here at Times Square because this is where the whole world can see us. We are here to send a message. We are raising the demand the Trump-Pence regime must go, and we are getting organized, refusefascism.org, for a new kind of protest, one that continues day after day, that draws in millions, and that does not stop until this fascist regime has been driven from power in the name of humanity.
Humanity first.
I say humanity first!
Humanity first.
Humanity first!
Humanity first.
Humanity first!
Humanity first.
Who's gonna drag him out?